Pirates survived months at sea without a single case of scurvy, while entire naval fleets died from malnutrition. Their secret? 15 foods that never expire and kept crews healthy for years. What specific preservation methods did they discover that we've forgotten? Well, they started with something that could crack a tooth before it ever cracked from age. Hardtac was basically edible stone that passed for food on pirate ships. Made from flour, water, and sometimes salt, these crackers were baked until they reached the hardness of ship planks. Pirates probably used leftover hardtack as cannonballs when they ran out of ammunition. The baking process removed every drop of moisture. Bakers would cook these crackers multiple times, turning simple dough into something that could survive underwater voyages and still be edible. We're talking about crackers so dry they made sand jealous. Storage happened in wooden barrels, packed tight to keep out rats and dampness. When stored properly, hardtack lasted decades. Your great-great-grandfather could have eaten the same hardtack you found in a barrel today. Eating hardtack required strategy. Smart pirates soaked it in water, coffee, or rum before attempting to chew. Without soaking, trying to bite hardtack was like trying to eat rocks. The crackers were so tough they probably gave pirates stronger jaw muscles than actual exercise. Sometimes weevils made homes inside the grain. Did pirates throw away bug-infested hardtack? Never. They'd knock out the bugs and keep eating. Extra protein was extra protein, even if it had legs. But protein was just as important as those tough crackers. Salted beef turned fresh meat into something that could outlast most pirate careers. The preservation method packed beef in layers of salt, creating meat that laughed at spoilage. Salt worked like a moisture vampire, sucking every drop of water from the meat. The salt was greedier than pirates dividing treasure, absorbing water until bacteria had nothing left to survive on. Without moisture, harmful germs couldn't grow and ruin the meat. Then the wooden barrels filled with salty brine held the preserved beef. This wasn't just a little salt. We're talking about meat swimming in water so salty it made ocean water taste fresh. The whole setup kept beef edible for months, sometimes over a year. Before cooking, pirates had to soak the meat to remove excess salt. Eating unsalted preserved beef would make you thirsty enough to drink an entire lake. One bite could turn your mouth into a desert that made actual deserts feel sorry for you. This salted meat provided the main protein that kept pirates strong. Hauling heavy ropes, climbing tall masts, and fighting battles required muscle power. Salted beef delivered the protein needed for those demanding tasks. While beef provided protein on ships, there was lighter protein floating in the ocean. Dried fish looked like leather that used to swim. Cod and other firm fish got the full sun treatment until they turned into something you could use as shoe soles. The drying process happened right on deck. Pirates laid fish out under the burning sun, letting heat and salty air remove every bit of moisture. The fish got so dehydrated, they probably forgot what water felt like. Day after day, the fish shrank and hardened until they became portable protein. Weight was a huge advantage. Dried fish weighed almost nothing compared to fresh fish, which meant ships could carry tons of protein without slowing down. Every ounce mattered when you're trying to escape the Navy or chase merchant ships. Here's the catch, though. Eating dried fish required planning. You couldn't just bite into it like fresh fish. Trying to chew dried fish without water was like trying to eat a boot. Technically possible, but nobody's idea of fun. Pirates soaked it or boiled it until it remembered how to be food again. The fish worked perfectly in stews with other preserved foods. Mixed with beans or hardtack, dried fish created filling meals that kept crews satisfied. Making all this preservation possible was one crucial ingredient. Salt was the superhero of food preservation, fighting bacteria instead of crime. This white crystal made the difference between eating preserved food and eating poison. Every preservation method pirates used came back to salt somehow. Salt worked harder than a one-legged pirate climbing rigging, pulling moisture out of everything it touched. Without water, bacteria couldn't survive, which meant food stayed safe instead of turning deadly. Pirates stored salt in huge barrels and cloth sacks. In some ports, salt worked as money. You could trade salt for ship repairs, fresh water, or information about treasure locations. Some pirates collected salt like others collected gold, except salt actually kept you alive. The uses went far beyond food. Salt cleaned wounds, even though it stung worse than a jellyfish attack. Pirates used it to treat leather, keeping boots and belts from rotting in humid sea air. Salt never went bad when kept dry. A barrel bought in port could last for years, preserving hundreds of pounds of meat and fish along the way. The investment paid for itself every time spoiled food didn't make the crew sick. While salt preserved other foods, some grains barely needed help staying fresh. Oats were the reliable crew members who never caused trouble and always did their job. These grains didn't need fancy preservation or special treatment. Just keep them dry, and they'd stick around for years. Natural resistance to spoilage made oats perfect for long voyages. While other grains threw fits and went bad quickly, oats were the steady type that could handle whatever the ocean threw at them. Store them in sacks or barrels, keep moisture out, and they'd remain fresh longer than most friendships. Cooking with oats was straightforward. Pirates made porridge by boiling oats with water, sometimes adding salt or honey if they had it. They also made flat oat cakes that worked as both meals and emergency food. Energy levels mattered when your job involved climbing ropes and fighting battles. Oats provided steady energy that lasted for hours. A pirate running on oats had more endurance than a ship's cat chasing rats. The complex carbohydrates released energy slowly, preventing crashes. Rationing became important on long trips. Smart captains calculated exactly how much each crew member needed daily, then added extra for delays. Nevertheless, protein that lasted just as long was equally important. Dried beans were nutrition packed into tiny packages that could wait forever for their chance to feed hungry pirates. These small powerhouses contained more protein and fiber than seemed possible in such little shells. The preservation was beautifully simple. Remove water and seal them up. Beans were so good at staying fresh, they could probably outlive the ships that carried them. Properly stored in sealed containers, beans remained edible indefinitely. Preparation required patience. Beans needed soaking for hours to absorb water, then boiling until soft. Pirates couldn't grab a handful and start eating like they could with other foods, but the wait was worth it for filling protein-rich meals. Nutrition made beans incredibly valuable. High protein helped maintain muscle during demanding ship work. The fiber kept digestive systems working properly. Important when you're stuck on a floating wooden box. Beans gave pirates enough energy to work like caffeinated monkeys. Storage efficiency was amazing. Dried beans took up tiny space compared to their food value. A small barrel could provide protein for weeks, while the same space filled with other foods might only last days. Adding sweetness to these practical meals required something special. Honey was liquid sunshine that refused to spoil no matter how much time passed. This golden sweetness had staying power that made other foods jealous. The science was impressive, even if pirates didn't understand it. Low moisture and high sugar created an environment where bacteria simply couldn't live. Honey was basically a sweet wasteland for germs. Ancient honey found in tombs was still perfectly good thousands of years later. Pirates treated honey like liquid treasure because it practically was. They used it to sweeten bland, preserved foods, turning boring oat mush into something almost dessert-like. A spoonful of honey could make hardtack taste less like chewing wood chips. Medicine was another major use. Honey treated wounds, creating protective barriers that fought infection. In a world where small cuts could become life-threatening, honey was serious medicine disguised as candy. Storage couldn't be easier. Just keep it sealed and dry. Honey sat in jars for years without any attention. Honey was the ultimate low-maintenance food. When it came to liquid that boosted morale, nothing beat the next item. Rum was happiness in liquid form that never went bad and always improved any situation, at least from a pirate's viewpoint. This golden liquid had more staying power than a grudge against the Navy. Distilled alcohol naturally fought spoilage because bacteria couldn't survive in high alcohol environments. The distillation removed water and concentrated alcohol, creating liquid that preserved itself forever when properly sealed. Caribbean islands made rum the obvious choice. Sugar plantations produced molasses, which distilleries turned into rum. Pirates had easier access to rum than most people have to fresh water. Local production meant cheaper prices and constant availability in ports. Uses went beyond drinking. Pirates preserved fruits in rum, creating treats that lasted longer than fresh fruit. They also used rum to clean tools and medical equipment. Grog was rum mixed with water, stretching the alcohol supply while still providing that mood boost pirates needed. A little rum in their water made even the most boring day feel like a party. Smart captains used rum as motivation. Extra rations for successful raids, reduced amounts for troublemakers. While rum lifted spirits, other foods lifted health in different ways. Dried fruit was nature's candy that also happened to fight deadly diseases. These wrinkled nuggets packed vitamins that could save lives during long ocean voyages. Raisins, dried apricots, dates, and plums went through the same water removal process as other preserved foods. The sun worked overtime on these fruits, concentrating sweetness until they became chewy vitamin bombs. Vitamin content, especially vitamin C, made dried fruit crucial for preventing scurvy. This disease caused teeth to fall out and wounds to reopen, making pirates miserable. Pirates without enough vitamins looked like they'd been fighting their own bodies and losing. Storage required sealed containers or cloth bags to keep moisture from sneaking back in. Pirates packed dried fruit carefully to prevent crushing that could ruin entire batches. Versatility made dried fruit valuable beyond snacking. Pirates mixed it into oat porridge for sweetness and nutrition. Dried fruit transformed boring ship food into something that didn't make you question your career choices. Natural sugars provided instant energy during demanding work. Climbing rigging and fighting required quick energy bursts that fruit sugars delivered directly. Even after eating the fruit, wise pirates saved every scrap. Citrus peels proved that pirates wasted absolutely nothing, not even the parts most people threw overboard. These orange and lemon rinds were like vitamin-packed leftovers that refused to quit. After eating fresh citrus brought aboard to prevent scurvy, smart pirates dried the peels instead of tossing them. The rinds contained concentrated vitamin C and oils that stayed strong even after drying. Drying was simple. Spread peels in the sun until they became crisp and light. The Caribbean sun was so good at drying citrus peels, it could probably dehydrate a pirate's sense of humor. Pirates mainly used dried peels for making teas and medicinal drinks. Boiling peels in water released vitamins and created drinks that tasted infinitely better than plain ship water. Some pirates chewed dried peels directly, though this took strong teeth and determination. Chewing citrus peels made pirates pucker more than kissing a sea urchin. Creative pirates candied peels by soaking them in honey before drying. This created treats that satisfied sweet cravings while providing nutrition. For preservation through acidity, there was another liquid that worked miracles. Vinegar was like having a tool chest in liquid form. It preserved food, cleaned everything, and healed wounds while never spoiling itself. This sour liquid was more dependable than a pirate's promise to share treasure fairly. Production was elegantly simple. Fermented alcohol naturally turned into vinegar through bacterial action, creating liquid with acidity that hostile organisms couldn't tolerate. Pirates used vinegar for impressive ranges of tasks. They cleaned wounds with it, knowing the burning meant it was working. Vinegar stung worse than a disappointed parrot's lecture, but it prevented deadly infections. Food preservation was extensive. Pirates pickled vegetables, eggs, and some meats using vinegar. The acid prevented spoilage while adding sharp flavors to bland preserved foods. Cleaning properties made vinegar valuable for ship maintenance. It cut through salt buildup on metal tools, preventing rust. Pirates cleaned barrels, pots, and eating utensils with vinegar. Flavoring dried and salted foods with vinegar made meals more enjoyable. A splash could make hardtack taste like food instead of wood shavings. Speaking of foods that came already preserved in acid, pickled eggs were regular eggs that took an acidic bath and came back completely transformed. These protein spheres spent so much time soaking in vinegar, they developed sour personalities. The process started in port, where pirates could get fresh eggs from chickens. They'd hard-boil dozens, then dunk them in vinegar or brine inside glass jars. The acid created an environment where bacteria couldn't survive, preserving eggs for months. Pirates often added spices to their pickling solutions. Bay leaves, peppercorns, garlic, and salt created complex flavors that made pickled eggs enjoyable rather than just necessary. Protein content made pickled eggs incredibly valuable during long voyages. When fresh eggs were impossible to find, pickled eggs provided complete protein for maintaining muscle and energy. Storage required keeping eggs submerged in their acidic bath. Exposed eggs spoiled faster than a pirate's reputation in port towns. Convenience was huge. Unlike dried foods that needed soaking and cooking, pickled eggs were ready immediately. for long-lasting richness that got better with time. Aged cheese was like wine's cousin who chose a different path but ended up just as valuable. This dairy product improved with time instead of rotting, making it practically magical. Hard cheeses like aged cheddar naturally resisted spoilage through their aging process. Low moisture, high salt, and beneficial bacteria created environments where harmful organisms couldn't grow. Storage techniques were crucial. Pirates wrapped hard cheese in oil-soaked cloth or covered it with wax to prevent mold. They protected cheese more carefully than some protected their own mothers. Temperature mattered less than moisture control. Aged cheese handled temperature changes better than fresh dairy, making it perfect for ships where conditions fluctuated with weather. Nutritional benefits were significant. Aged cheese provided calcium for strong bones, fat for energy, and protein for muscle maintenance. Pirates eating aged cheese had stronger bones for climbing rigging and more energy for sword fighting. Flavor actually improved during aging. The process concentrated tastes and created complexity that enhanced monotonous preserved foods. For adding richness to everything, olive oil was liquid gold that actually deserved the comparison. It lasted forever and made everything taste better. This Mediterranean treasure was smoother than a pirate's charm and lasted longer than most marriages. Stability came from natural composition. Stored in sealed, dark containers away from heat and light, olive oil stayed fresh for years. Unlike other fats that turn nasty quickly, olive oil contained natural protectors that fought spoilage. Cooking applications were endless. Pirates fried dried fish, cooked any fresh vegetables found in port, and added richness to bland preserved foods. A splash of olive oil could make hardtack taste almost edible instead of completely wooden. Food preservation was another major use. Pirates poured oil over cheese, herbs, or other foods to create protective barriers against air and bacteria. Non-food uses made olive oil even more valuable. Pirates burned it as lamp oil and waterproofed leather goods with it, keeping boots and equipment from rotting. Mediterranean trade routes meant steady availability in ports where pirates resupplied. But even the best oil couldn't match the potential packed into tiny shells. Seeds were tiny survival packages that contained entire futures in shells smaller than fingernails. These little capsules held more potential than treasure maps and lasted longer than most pirate careers. Flax seeds, sunflower seeds, and whole grains survived indefinitely in dry, sealed containers. Natural protective shells kept nutritious contents fresh year after year. Versatility impressed even practical pirates. Seeds could be eaten raw for quick nutrition, ground into flour for bread, or roasted for better flavor. Seeds were like edible shapeshifters, ready to become whatever the situation required. Nutritional density was remarkable for such small packages. Seeds contained healthy oils, protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals in concentrated forms. Planting potential added another dimension. If pirates settled on islands, they could plant seeds to grow fresh food. Seeds were like edible insurance policies that could literally grow into future meals. Storage efficiency was outstanding. Seeds took minimal space while providing maximum nutrition. The lightweight nature meant ships could carry huge quantities without affecting sailing speed. These 15 foods formed the foundation of pirate survival, each bringing unique advantages to life at sea. Which one would you like to eat most? Let me know in the comments.